Well, hello there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly as far as the news goes. I've got a lot of things to cover. I'm sorry it's getting to you kind of late. I just got off my shift. But let's cover the first thing that I know is on everybody's mind: Elon Musk buying Twitter. There are a lot of neoliberals who are extremely outraged by this, and I got to be honest with you, I'm not super happy about it, but at the same time, like, Twitter was already owned by billionaires. So if Elon Musk, who has been more or less outspoken about free speech absolutism, actually does what he says he's going to do with Twitter, it will still be improved. He's going to make it open source. He's going to validate that accounts are real, and he's going to try to get rid of a lot of the bot farms, which that in and of itself makes the neoliberals very, very nervous, and that would explain why they don't really want Elon Musk taking it over. They rely on those bot farms to boost their accounts and to attack accounts that attack them. If you're anybody that's on the left nowadays and you have good takes, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say you have trolls that follow you around like crazy. And a lot of these accounts, they have like 0 followers or almost no followers, and then a ton of them show up at once whenever you have a popular tweet, and they just badger you and attempt to try to smear you or discredit you or try to get more likes than you, and they just never leave you alone. They're not even likely real people. I would love for that to go away. Do I want Twitter to be owned by billionaires? No. I wish it could be a public utility, a literal town square style thing where it's like we kind of decide democratically how it should be run, and everybody has access to it, and it's free. And I'd like to also kind of dispel this bullshit talking point going around that Cenk Uygur ran with earlier today. No surprises. All the shitlibs are running with this. They're like, well, if Elon makes it truly free speech, that's going to include hate speech and in going after people and telling them that you're going to threaten them or kill them or whatever. It's like, no. Free speech does not mean that you're allowed to assault people. That's assault. That's not going to be allowed. That's, again, a straw man. They want to make it seem like it's going to be the Wild West out there. Like, people are just going to be able to get away with assaulting people online by threatening their well-being or their lives or whatever. No. That's not what free speech absolutists are about. That is not going to be allowed on Twitter, I don't think. So I think that's a straw man. I think it's bullshit. So, I'd like to see what Elon does. If he lives up to the rhetoric that he's put out about how he wants free speech to be protected on Twitter, I'm all for that. We'll see what he does. But that kind of explains why the shitlibs are so not excited about this, is because I think we all know that there's a bunch of accounts out there that they're terrible tweeters. They're not at all popular, but for some reason, some of them have hundreds of thousands of followers. Some of them get really, really popular tweets that are really shitty tweets. And I think we know that it's like the bot farms are helping them and attacking their enemies. If you're running with the CIA-driven narrative, chances are you're being boosted by the algorithm on Twitter. If you're going against that narrative, you're getting shadow banned or literally banned or taken off entirely. So I would love to see an actual like open source, town square style, free speech social media platform. If Elon can give that to us, I don't really give a shit. Though I don't really like billionaires in general, so, whatever. So it's nuanced, of course, I think that nothing should be a monopoly, nor should billionaires own any of these things that pertain to our free speech. But if we can make an incrementalist step in the right direction on Twitter, I would like that. So that's what I have to say about that. We'll just have to see what Elon actually does. Of course, he's kind of a sociopath. We all know, like, the shit that he said about the Bolivian coup because he wants to mine their lithium for cheap because Teslas need lithium for their batteries. Of course, he's not exactly a knight in shining armor or anything like that. Now, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some good news, guys. Couple of new shows and things that are going on shows that already existed. Primo Radical is now doing live streams, which is pretty cool. Check out his content. He does a lot of really great interviews. It's called Uncensored. That's really cool, and he just started doing live streaming. That's cool. My INN brother, Jesse Jett, is now doing his own show. That hasn't started yet, but it will be soon. So I'm super excited for that. He's awesome, and we'll just have to see what he does. It looks like he's going to do, he's going to debunk propaganda, do deep dives, all of the above, all the stuff that I like when it comes to YouTube shows, so that's sweet. And then the really good news of the day is actually Steve Donziger is now free. After 993 days under house arrest, if you guys don't know, he's the Chevron lawyer that sued Chevron for what they did in Ecuador. They drilled and deliberately destroyed the rainforest and caused birth defects and mutagenic, carcinogenic issues with all of the populace of Ecuador because of their drilling and oil spills. He sued them for $9.5 billion back in the day and won. So Chevron has been waging a war, basically buying off a whole bunch of judges and using lawyers, you know, that are the Chevron lawyers to ruin Steve Donziger's life, and he has been on house arrest for 993 days. He is free today. So congratulations, Steve. I am overjoyed. I'd like to point out, by the way, he deserves a presidential pardon. Joe Biden can do that, and he's not going to, of course, because he's in the pocket of Chevron. But it would be nice to see him pardon Steve Donziger, as it would be nice for him to pardon all of the whistleblowers, drop the charges against Julian Assange as well. Biden's not going to ever do that. It would be nice to see. I would give him credit if he did so, but, you know, I'm just happy that Steve Donziger is no longer under house arrest. Congratulations. This is what we do to heroes in this country. At best, we put them under house arrest and ruin their lives for 3 fucking years. At worst, we mentally and emotionally torture them and put them in solitary confinement like we've done to Julian. So I don't have much hope that anybody's ever going to get pardoned or have these charges dropped against them, but, you know, we can keep fighting for that stuff. So congratulations, Steve Donziger. All right, the bad news. 2 stories. America is literally on fire right now. I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's been a bunch of food processing plants, I think 12 of them, that have either exploded or caught on fire recently. Now, I don't want to speculate too much on this. I don't know if they're linked. I don't know if there's some sort of operation going on to cause this. It might have been a bunch of accidents, but it is still concerning because there's so much worry and anxiety around food shortages and food prices going up in this country right now that I feel like this needs to be reported on. So I'm going to read to you here from the Free Thought Project, which is not usually a source that I use, but that was the most succinct site that broke down the story here for me. Let's read you very briefly here. Multiple large food processing and distribution plants in the U.S. have recently exploded or burned down. This is from April 21st. As food uncertainly lingers on the horizon thanks to the U.S. sanctions and government decimation of the economy during the past 2 years, there's another factor contributing to the problem. Since the beginning of the year, there have been several very large food processing facilities that have either exploded or burned to the ground across the U.S. This week, a vegetable and nut processing facility in Durfur, Oregon, became engulfed in flames for unknown reasons. Quote, lights flickered, they heard a pop, and went up there to check it out, and then there was a fire, according to a report by Wasco County 911 records listed in the Wasco County Sheriff's log. The independent distributor of natural, organic, and non-GMO foods, which employs around 150 people, burned to the ground. 1 week before that fire in Oregon, a massive fire brought down a meat processing plant in Conway, New Hampshire. After burning for 16 hours, multiple fire crews finally put out the fire at East Conway Beef and Pork, but the facility is completely destroyed. That same week, in Salinas, California, a massive fire at the Taylor Farms processing facility led to the evacuation of residents as it burned for over 17 hours. Taylor Farms is a major agriculture company that processes and delivers many of the salad kits seen in grocery stores. The cause of this fire is currently under investigation. Just weeks before that, a massive fire engulfed a Walmart distribution center in Plainfield, Indiana, where over 1,000 employees shipped food and other supplies all over the region. The fire destroyed the massive 1 million square foot operation. That is a huge fire. That same week, one of the largest food facilities of its kind in South Texas caught fire and burned to the ground. Prior to burning down, the Rio Fresh facility in San Juan, Texas grew, packed, and shipped a variety of Texas-grown items including Texas 1015 sweet onions, melons, greens, cabbage, and kale. The cause of the fire is currently unknown. As far as I know, I don't think they know what started a lot of these fires, and I don't want to speculate. We'll just have to keep up with this story as it unfolds in front of us. In Hermiston, Oregon, in February, a massive food processing facility suddenly exploded, injuring 7 of the nearly 400 employees who work at Shearer's food plant. According to reports, the cause of the explosion, which originated near a boiler, is still under investigation. It's not only food production and distribution plants either. In Maricopa, Arizona, in March, a massive fire wiped out the Maricopa Food Pantry, which distributes food to less fortunate. More than 50,000 pounds of food was destroyed in the blaze that lasted for 24 hours. That fire is also under investigation. The fact is, since last year, more than a dozen of these fires and explosions have taken place at food processing and distribution centers. So I think, like, the conclusion that can be drawn from this with certainty is that even if it's not linked and these fires aren't being started, we can do a better job at making these places safe from explosion and fires. That would be nice, you know, a little bit of regulation, a little bit of extra money being put into these places to make sure they're safe for the employees so that we also don't have a food processing issue. But I'll let you know if there's any updates on this, guys. As food prices are going up here, this is one of those things that is disconcerting, to say the least. So we'll keep an eye on it. And the second story I'd like to talk about, which is very, very sad, but in a way kind of heroic, is, I don't know if you've heard, but a climate activist lit himself on fire and died later on after he lit himself on fire in front of the Supreme Court the other day. He was a climate activist named Win Bruce, and he was a Buddhist, and this was his way of doing sort of like the Buddhist monks did back during Vietnam, of protesting by lighting themselves on fire. I'm sad that this happened. This is one of those things where, like, it breaks my heart that we're to this point where now we have people that are trying to save the planet willing to light themselves on fire and martyr themselves to try to save the earth from catching on fire. So rest in peace, brother. Very sad. I'll read to you here briefly what happened from Newsweek. But he was a devout Buddhist, and this was his way of basically, you know, trying to get people's attention for climate activism. And our country doesn't give a shit about that. The people in power, regardless if they're Republican or Democrat, don't give a fuck. Biden right now is giving out plenty of oil and fracking permits all over the place, despite this stuff going on. And, you know, the worse things get, the more you're going to see horrible stuff like this happen. So at what point do they start taking notice of us? I don't think the elites are ever going to take notice. Even if we all were to kind of light ourselves on fire, or if we all burn, I think that the elites are more or less like, you know, we don't give a shit. We're going to fuck off to Mars eventually pretty soon anyway. So you guys can just burn. I'm going to read to you here from Newsweek. An environmental activist who burned himself alive in front of the U.S. Supreme Court on Earth Day may have been planning his protest for at least 1 year, according to a friend. Dr. Kay Critty, a Twitter user who claimed to be the man, Win Bruce's friend, posted a statement online Sunday, quote, "This guy was my friend. He meditated with our Sangha, Buddhist group. The act is not suicide. It is a deeply fearless act of compassion to bring attention to the climate crisis. We are piecing together info, but he had been planning it for at least 1 year, hashtag Win Bruce. I am so moved." Self-immolation has been recorded for centuries and is usually carried out as either a political or religious protest. The extreme protest is less common in the West, but is more often seen in India, with one study revealing that 1,584 people set themselves alight in the country in 2001. The practice became more widely known in the U.S. when a series of Buddhist monks set themselves alight in protest of the Vietnam War. Researchers discovered almost 100 self-immolations were covered by the New York Times in the Times between 1963 and 1971. More recently, a man named David Buckle set himself on fire in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, New York in April 2018, shortly after sending an email to news outlets claiming, quote, "My early death by fossil fuel reflects what we are doing to the planet." So rest in peace, Win Bruce. It's horrible that he felt like he was pushed to do this, but I understand the sentiment, and I don't consider this like a suicide. He's making a statement. He's sending a message. And at least to some of us that actually give a damn, message received, and I will try to pass your message on. Rest in peace. So that was really, really horrible to hear about, but I understand what he's trying to do, and we will keep fighting for people like that, and hopefully it doesn't get any worse where all the rest of us feel like we're obligated to light ourselves on fire to get the attention of our elite prick asshole oligarchs. So anyway, let's move on to the ugly. Anyway, this is some goofy shit that's going on right now. Bernie might run again in 2024. He recently came out and said that he would run again if Joe Biden doesn't. So Joe Biden has recently come out and said that he is planning on running again in 2024, which for the people that are saying, well, that's evidence that Bernie won't be running again. Yeah, Joe Biden doesn't know where the fuck he is. He doesn't know what he's going to be doing in 2024. He might be maggot food in 2024. So to say, like, Bernie's not going to run again because Biden already said he's going to run again, Joe Biden doesn't know shit. If the elites don't want him to run again and they want another puppet from the Democratic Party, they'll just, they'll hold a pillow over his face, metaphorically, and shh, we want Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg. You did your job for 4 years, now you're done. Or they'll, have one of those guys in a black suit in the corner of the Oval Office, which has no corners, in the corner of the White House, come over and inject him with a syringe that'll, like, put him comatose back into a wheelchair, and he won't run again. So it's unlikely that he does run again. Whether or not he thinks he's gonna or not is irrelevant. He's probably not gonna run again. Now, do I think it's a good idea for Bernie to run again in 2024? Fuck no. I've made multiple videos about this months back talking about the idea. I think it's a horrible idea, especially running through the Democratic Party. I will not vote for him if he runs Independent or Democratic Party. I will consider voting for him if he runs Green Party, because the idea has always been on my show is, like, you run the Vanguard play, you run somebody that's got big name recognition for a third party in an attempt to get it on the map, and then make it relevant so that it can be used as a weapon to destroy the duopoly in the future. Bernie Sanders could, in fact, as a matter of fact, he absolutely could do that. If he ran for the Green Party, I would absolutely consider voting for him and donating and canvassing, but that's what I would have to see. And I would have to see rhetoric that was much stronger than last time. You turn on your good buddy Joe, you start calling some people out in the Democratic Party by name, you say the Democratic Party is a graveyard for progressivism, you say that they cheated me multiple times, that's why I'm running third party. If I see that kind of rhetoric coming from Bernie, you will have my consideration. Beyond that, fuck off. Never going to happen. Never in a million years. And not only will I not vote for you if you run as a Democrat, I will track your inevitably doomed campaign through the Democratic Party every step of the way, point out every mistake you're making, and when you do not win, when you get cheated for a third time, I'll tell you I told you so. So it's an ultimatum. You decide what you want to do, Bernie. But as a function of trying to get a third party on the map, I would like Bernie to do that. That would be wonderful, because he's got enough of a base, and he's got the name recognition to absolutely, like, get funding for and get a Green Party candidate on the debate stage, for instance. So that would be wonderful if he decided to do that. Your choice, Bernie. Nina Turner is doing horribly again. I don't know if you guys saw Jordan Sheridan. This was, again, very ugly. Came out and was like, calling out people like me, not me by name personally, but saying, how can you not support Nina Turner for her congressional run? She's obviously different than the AOCs and the squatties of the world. Yeah, not so much. She went on Jordan's show after he got shellacked for talking about that on Twitter, and he asked her straight up, are you going to be combative when you go into office? And she gave the most milquetoast dodge of an answer ever, basically not reiterating what Jordan had asked her. Are you going to be combative towards Joe Biden / the Democratic Party when you get in there? She gave a hilarious non-answer, and Jordan, you could just look on his face, and he's just like, fuck, that was not the answer my viewers were looking for, and certainly not the real left viewers that are going to now see this clip. It was hilarious to me, super ugly. And then the other news about Jordan Sheridan is that he and Status Quo are now joining Breaking Points. They're going to do some on-the-ground reporting for them. Now, that's okay to me. If they want to do some good on-the-ground reporting for Breaking Points and then have Breaking Points report on that to amplify it, cool. But what I would like to point out is that this is exactly what I told you guys was going to happen. You're seeing the corporate merger of a lot of these faux lefties, the boutique left, who are now kind of on an island. There's like a handful of them. You know who I'm talking about. TYT, Sam Cedar, David Pakman, Kalinsky, Crystal Ball, Ryan Grimm. And I told you guys, eventually, they're all going to end up on like a TYT, or they're all going to end up on Breaking Points. They're all going to kind of merge because they're going to have no choice, because their channels individually, a lot of them are dying. So I've made like the joke that like TYT would eventually be like Jenks sitting next to Vosh after Anna Kasparian goes up to MSNBC to replace like Rachel Maddow or whatever, and David Pakman, and you'll have like Emma Vigeland doing the sports. You'll have Ryan Grimm doing weather, or unless he wants to do sports too, because we know he knows so much about football. He could do football coverage theoretically, So this is just me being kind of right again because of my satire. In a cartoonish world, all I have to do is kind of like watch how things are unfolding in an objective light, and then I write jokes about them, and a lot of times that ends up being correct. So I guess congratulations to Breaking Points and Status Coup for their merger, but here's what I predict will happen in the future, and, may or may not happen exactly this way, but what do you think will come next, guys? What do you think will come next? I think we will see probably either Tim Black or Ben Dixon end up on TYT, something like that. I don't think Vosh will end up on any of these channels. He just likes sitting in his basement or whatever, and he doesn't really need them. He puts up decent numbers on his own. But, I could definitely see Sam Cedar going to TYT, possibly Breaking Points. I could definitely see Kalinsky going to one of these. Now, he's not going to go to Breaking Points because that's him doing a show with his girlfriend where he's never going to give you an honest opinion about anything because he's going to have to look over at her and, get her to confirm whether or not what he's saying is okay with her or not. He's not going to do that. But I could see him going to TYT, one of these other channels. You might see Mike Figueredo end up on one of these shows eventually. All the floundering channels that really have dropped in popularity due to their defense of the squad and their boutique leftism, you're going to see all of them starting to kind of coalesce. And this is just the first stage. Over the next couple of years, I imagine we'll see quite a bit more of this stuff. Maybe quite a bit more people joining TYT with Nina Turner. Whether or not that will help their viewership, it remains to be seen. Methinks probably fucking not. Probably not. So we'll just have to see, but I thought that was kind of funny. And then the last thing here, this is the ugly. It's kind of bad news for some countries in Europe, but we saw it coming for a while here, guys. Russia is now, as of tomorrow, cutting off their gas to Bulgaria and Poland because they have refused to pay for the gas in rubles. So there's a Russian bank that has offered to go, it goes around sanctions by allowing these countries to pay in euros if they start up an account at Gazprom Bank, which is a Russian state-owned bank, and then they have that bank convert their euros into rubles to pay for the gas. And Bulgaria and Poland have refused to do so. So as of tomorrow, they will not have any more gas going through their pipelines coming from Russia. Now, I don't know how much they rely on that gas, but even if it's 5, 10, 20%, a small number relatively, it's still going to cause major ramifications in these countries. I've seen people that are like, well, Bulgaria doesn't really need it. They don't rely that much on natural gas. It doesn't really matter. Even if you only rely on it 5%, it's still going to have enormous ramifications, especially it gets cold in these countries. It might be a little bit warmer now, but it gets cold eventually, and eventually you're going to need that. So it's going to have huge ramifications for the people of these countries. I'm going to read to you here very briefly from, this is from PBS actually. Russia suspending natural gas supplies to Poland and Bulgaria. Officials in Poland and Bulgaria say Russia is suspending their country's natural gas delivery starting on Wednesday. That is tomorrow. The governments of the two European countries said Tuesday that Russian energy giant Gazprom informed them that it was halting gas supplies. The suspensions would be the first since Russian President Vladimir Putin said last month that unfriendly foreign buyers would have to pay the state-owned Gazprom in rubles instead of other currencies. Europe imports large amounts of Russian natural gas to heat homes, generate electricity, and fuel industry. The imports have continued despite the war in Ukraine. Around 60% of imports are paid in euros and the rest in dollars. Putin's demand was apparently intended to help bolster the Russian currency amid the war in Ukraine, which, by the way, it has. The Russian ruble has rebounded to what it was worth before the war in Ukraine started. So all the sanctions that we've put on Russia, they didn't work. They backfired. Now a bunch of product prices are skyrocketing in America, and it's also put a couple of these countries who are supposed to be kind of like our allies in a bit of a pinch. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So it would be nice if we could, as the United States being basically the driving force of NATO, force NATO to back off of the Ukraine, maybe do some negotiating every once in a while, some diplomacy. No, we're not going to do that. We would rather have a bunch of people freeze to death by sanctioning Russia and putting all of our NATO allies in a horrible situation. If this happens, it's someplace like Austria, which I know for a fact gets like 80% of its natural gas from Russia. Oh boy, are they fucked. Oh boy, are they fucked. And we'll see exactly how much these NATO allies' allegiance stays in place the more we force them to, the more we force Russia to force them into a very tough situation economically. So, and as we've covered before, a lot of other countries have already agreed, like India, that they're going to pay for Russian gas in rubles, which they've done. And then worse news for the petrodollar is that a bunch of countries are now agreeing to work with China in yuan. For instance, like Russia and China are now looking at the Chinese buying natural gas from Russia in yuan, which severely undermines the petrodollar, because the petrodollar is named because petroleum, gas, gives the dollar, the American dollar, its value. So the currency, the world currency, reserve currency, is no longer going to be the petrodollar here very, very soon unless things change. I don't know what it's going to be. It might be the ruble. More likely it's the yuan. The Chinese are an economic powerhouse. They're going to win this economic battle against us and our allies eventually. We're a blunt object. They think 5-10 steps ahead. And you can see already exactly how the United States really doesn't know what it's doing here. It's just willing to basically sacrifice Ukrainians in the altar of hurting Russia. It's willing to sacrifice a bunch of the EU countries and NATO allies on the altar of hurting Russia and bleeding China and Russia for, you know, keeping our hegemonic dominance for maybe another couple of years. But we're hanging on by a thread. Eventually, they will arise as the new superpower, more than likely. The petrodollar's in deep trouble because of stuff like this. So, last thing here, guys. European leaders said they would not comply, arguing the requirement for them to purchase rubles and then pay Gazprom violated the terms of contracts and their sanctions against Russia. The, quote, Russian proposal for a two-step payment procedure is in violation with the current contract and bears considerable risks for Bulgaria, including making payments without receiving any gas deliveries from Russia, the Bulgarian government said. Now, that is not true. It's not against the sanctions. This is, in fact, a loophole that has been, I think there was a judge that even ruled on it. Like, it definitely is not against the sanctions, and other countries are just doing it. So I would say to the Bulgarians and the Polish to maybe take a page out of the Chinese and the India's playbook and actually, you know, don't force your people to go without natural gas because you happen to have some sort of like loosely affiliated relations with the United States. If I were over there, I'd be telling the U.S. to go fuck themselves. That's just me, though. Anyway, so that's the news of the day. That's kind of a lightning round. I hope you guys enjoyed that. But, you know, nothing is getting better in the United States, that's for sure. The war is still raging on in Ukraine. I will be doing a story about how it looks as though Mariupol has entirely been taken over by the Russians. We did a story at the end of March saying that the Azov battalion had been scattered to the wind in Mariupol, and the Russians had about 60 to 70% of the city under control at that point. Here now, 3 weeks later, they now have taken over Mariupol, save for one last steel plant that is still being occupied by allegedly like 1,000 civilians and some soldiers. So that will fall eventually here, next couple of days or so, and then Mariupol will be under Russian control. We will do an episode on that in a couple of days here. And I get it to you earlier, but I got to work 11 days in a row, and I'm not getting home until just now, very late, so I don't always have the energy to do extra episodes. So anyway, I wish the best to Status Coup and Breaking Points. I hope that they do good work. You know, I think it's kind of indicative of what is to be coming for most of the boutique left. I think you'll see a lot of these floundering, dying channels that are on life support kind of joining forces. There will still be some standalone channels that seem to do well on their own, but there's some channels that definitely need some help. And you know that some of these, you know, quote-unquote bigger channels like Breaking Points will be reaching out to these dying channels to try to recruit their hosts. I imagine that's going to be a trend we see in the future here. So maybe we'll see Ryan Grimm on TYT pretty soon. Apparently The Intercept is in some trouble. As you guys saw, they're begging for subscriptions. They're down at least 20% of their subscriptions now. But then again, he may not need the extra money because Pierre Omidyar is more than willing to, keep the Intercept afloat. So we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. I don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know if Ryan would be willing to leave the hill, because he does so well on the hill when Kim Iverson whoops his ass on something. He definitely gets a lot of views. Not on his own, but when he goes out there and basically gets humiliated for 10 to 15 minutes by Kim Iverson, he definitely gets some viewership. So I don't know if he's willing to give up that humiliation. Perhaps he has a fetish of some sort. But you never know. And of course, if he went to TYT, he would still be getting humiliated plenty. So keep that in mind, Ryan. If you want to keep that going on, you might want to consider going over there and being humiliated with Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian. Just food for thought. Anyway, keep fighting the good fight out there, guys. I love you. I'll do the next episode in 2 or 3 days. We'll be covering Mariupol, and we'll do the 3rd chapter of Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti. We'll see you later.